which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And do we have a roll call, Kathy, please?
You got it. Wheeler.
Here.
Garland.
Here.
Maloney.
Here.
Oxley.
Here.
Peters.
Here.
Likens.
Here.
Quinn.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 13th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Peters, second by Likens. Any questions, comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Tonight we have a public hearing for a special use permit for a planned residential development. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Garland, second by Wheeler. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
You're up, Lance.
I'm the guy. Thank you, Chairman. The subject property is a special use permit for a planned development, final plan of subdivision, and final development plan for a property located north of 151st Street and west of I-355, commonly called Oak Valley at this time. The subject property was rezoned by Lockport Investments from O2 General Office to R2 Single Family Residential in 2017. This occurred during the time that Prologis Business Park was being considered. The owner had agreed to rezone the vacant land south of the creek to residential to assure the residents south of the Prologis Business Park that future development would be compatible with the existing residential community. In 2022, a preliminary plan was approved for a single-family detached residential community. However, the developer would not continue on with the final development plan. Today, the plan brought before you by Lennar Home Builders follows a similar layout to the approved 2022 concept plan that was submitted back then. Lennar sought approval of that concept plan for the townhomes rather than single-family detached homes in 2023. Final development plans are in conformance with the approved concept plan. From a zoning standpoint, you can see the site in the center of your screen there. It is surrounded to the east by O2, to the south by both R1 and unincorporated property behind the fire station, to the west by R1, and to the north by M1. The Oak Valley plan proposes 148 townhomes over plus or minus 25 acres. A planned development is granted through the issuance of a special use permit, which is authorized by the City Council upon recommendation from the Plan and Zoning Commission. A public hearing and public notifications are required for a special use permit. All required notifications have been completed. Staff finds that the proposed development is a cohesive, unified project, and provisions have been made by the developer for functional and beneficial uses of open space such as the bike path and a public park. The proposed community will be a safe and desirable environment, and just as a comparison, I added the concept plan that was approved in the upper right portion of your screen with the final development plan that is in the main portion of the screen. You can see that the layout is exactly the same, the number of units is exactly the same, the buildings are exactly the same, so there are really no significant modifications between the concept plan and the final plan. A final plat of subdivision was submitted also. Lots 1 through 43 will provide the common space to be controlled and maintained by an HOA, homeowners association, with the exception of lot 44, which is highlighted in green in the upper left corner, which will be controlled by the Lockport Township Park District. The applicant has been working with the Park District on the design of that park, as well as the retaining wall and fence that is needed along the north edge of it as the property slopes down to the creek. The following modifications from the zoning ordinance are being requested. At the time of the review, there was some discussion still going on, but we have finalized all of those components. The 4 that you see on the screen are the 4 that are being requested, and I want to caveat this a little bit because we continue as a staff to struggle with the way that townhomes are platted and how they relate to standard typical bulk requirements. So, as an example, Lago Vista has much bigger lots, so their rear yards are bigger, their front yards are bigger, side yards are bigger, but the way that a place like Silo Bend or Sagebrook were platted are much tighter to the building. So we are going to go through a process here probably over the next couple months to refine our bulk standards table, But in the case of this particular case, we still need to follow what is in our code. And so the 4 that you see there, the first one, that's an easy one to understand, maximum lot coverage. Obviously, if you have a property line that is tied up against the building because it defines individual deeds for those units themselves, not common open space that's maintained by the association, you'll get a higher lot coverage number. It doesn't mean that there isn't a backyard, it doesn't mean that there's not a front yard, it doesn't mean that there's not plenty of space between the units, but because of the way it's platted, it's hard to differentiate that. So we go from our city requirement of 30%, which would be applicable if these were individual single-family detached home lots, to 70%, which represents where a building like that red box fits within the yellow box that is underneath that. So that's an interesting way to look at it, and that green box is all open space. So that's the space between the structures, and the yellow box with the red inside of it is how the lot is actually laying out in relation to the building. The second item is very similar, the rear yard setback issue. So typically, in a normal single-family lot, we would have a 25-foot rear yard setback, and that gives enough space for from the edge of the property to get the utility easements and all the other kinds of things, and then set back so that you don't have structures being built further back onto the lot and disrupting that. Well, the townhome, the lot lines in Sagebrook are 5 foot off the building, but they caused issues with patios when people came in for patios. Then we asked them to be 10 foot off the building to accommodate a patio, and so we can't get a rear lot line to match what that would normally be, because as opposed to going from a back property line to somewhere in the yard, it's a back property line to the inside the living room if they were going to follow the code directly. So that again is one of those planning issues. So in this case, our requirement is 25 foot, which again, if these were detached single-family homes, would be fine, but it would be 10 feet for these townhomes. Doesn't mean that there's still not all that space behind the house. I can see in that green box that's on your screen, but it's just a factor of how it's platted. Open space is less than 10% modification from what our city code stands or has in it, so it's a 40% city requirement. They're at 30%, 37%. We have worked with them in a whole variety of different ways to get the open space through, and then the minimum landscaped area is 1.2% over that, which is less than a 2% deviance or modification from it. So those are the 4 that are being requested as a part of it. We don't, as a staff, do not think that they are issues at all. They're more a function of our challenges with the way our bulk standards are applied to townhome and how they're platted than they are issues in the relationship of buildings between each other and the amount of open space that is around them. If you want to ask any questions about those, I'd certainly entertain it, because I know that it's not an easy subject to understand. Hopefully we can make it more easy as we continue to work through that. So from a site plan standpoint, let's see, I got to turn the page. The site plan illustrates a 10-foot bike path that will extend through the community. That runs from 151st Street right at Olympic Lane north through the property. That kind of divides the block that occurs there all the way up to the north edge of the property. And then it runs east and west, connecting into the bike path that currently exists over in Creekside and expanding the park site that is currently in Creekside as well. The petitioner will be dedicating 0.57 acres to the park district. Like I said before, they've been working with them on the design and the layout and the grading of that, and the district is very pleased with what they've been able to provide and the expansion it's going to give them at that location. Site plan illustrates 39 attached single-family townhome buildings. 8 are 3 units and 31 are 4 units, with a total of 148 units. This 25-acre development will have an approximate density of 6 units per acre. The plan shows 3 access points. One is aligning with Hillside Drive to the northwest and provides connection into the existing Creekside Estates development, just like in the concept plan. The second one aligns with Olympic Lane to the south on 151st Street. That's the left one, and that was consistent with the concept plan. And the last one shares an access with a private drive to the city's well property and aligns with the Homer Fire Protection driveway that they have on the south side of 151st Street. Open space has been provided at the north end of the development around the stormwater basins, including the bike paths and connections throughout. And additional guest parking will be provided along the pedestrian walkway on both sides of the road. All units have 2-car garages with separate driveways and 25-foot front yard building setback for each unit. The elevations show that the 2-story townhomes are craftsman and modern farmhouse style. I'll show you the modern farmhouse here in a second. The homes will be constructed with vinyl siding with a masonry base from windowsill to the foundation. We have worked with the applicant to apply our Appendix A exterior building material standards as it relates to the style and the design of the home to meet the vast majority of our requirements that are in our design guidelines. Some of the examples of things that we've worked with them on is an increased roof pitch, roof overhangs, centering the windows, lap siding in lieu of some of the board and batten in a couple of locations, additional outdoor light fixtures, appropriate columns to match the masonry bases, shingled roof on the gables, and higher quality garage doors, as well as some rear elevation modifications along 151st Street and the Creekside Estates area as well. So this one is the modern farmhouse that you see on your screen. There are 3 color packages for each product type. So the modern farmhouse, you see the 3 color packages that occur there, and the same for the Craftsman package. So there's 3 color packages that occur on that. We think that will help provide a really nice varied environment, so it's not all the same color, all the same look, all the same feel. And we've been pleased with the way in which we've been able to work with the applicant to do that. On the 151st Street side of things, we do require some additional architectural elements, and they were willing to work with us on that. The interior homes will have what looks like the top version of that. The lower version, where we have all of the kind of shed roofs that would be over the main windows, as well as additional stone on the lower level of that section of the home, will all be facing 151st Street, and then as well as on the west side up against Creekside Estates. Landscape plan meets all of our requirements. There are really no issues. They have probably gone over and above the amounts that we would typically require, being sensitive to 151st Street and its appearance, as well as the adjacency with Creekside Estates. I know that the applicant will be talking a little bit about that during his portion of the presentation. The city's development engineering team has reviewed the final engineering plans. I placed a clean review memo at each of your seats. All of the issues that we had identified through our reviews have been resolved, so there are no further conditions that relate to that. And our recommended motion, before I turn it over to John, is should the commission find the proposed townhome development acceptable, the following motions are suggested. Item A is a motion to adopt staff's findings and recommend approval of a special use permit for planned development to allow a 148-unit townhome development. And the second motion is a motion to approve the final plat of subdivision and final development plan. With that, I'll answer any questions if somebody has some of me in particular, or we can let John kind of present.
Not yet. Let's let them present and
All right.
hear from the
I'll
public.
turn it over to John, who's going to come up from Lennar.
Thank you.
Thank you. John, would you please state your name and record for the address, or name and address for the record, please? Sonny will swear you in.
John McFarland, Lennar Corporation, 1700 East Gulf Road, Schaumburg, Illinois.
Yeah, let me swear you in before you state
Okay.
that, but, so, do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And what you stated before regarding your name and your business address is correct?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. All right. Thanks for having us here tonight. I'll be brief. Lance gave a great overview. I'm here tonight with Rich Olson, who is our landscape architect and land planner, and also Ryan Martin, who is the civil engineer on the development as well. Ryan has worked extensively with the staff in refining the engineering plans, and Rich on the landscaping side. Just very quickly, you heard this before, but Lennar is a national company with a presence in 41 different markets around the U.S. We've had a very large presence here in Chicago for a number of years. We built over 1,500 homes in the Chicago area last year, and are on pace to do that again this year. We have an in-house mortgage and title company that helps with the buying process for prospective purchasers that streamlines that quite a bit. Nearby communities, we have a number going on right now from Plainfield, Joliet, Naperville, Oswego, Aurora, Yorkville, Batavia, Manhattan. So we've been in the area for a while, and we'll continue with new communities opening in Plainfield and Oswego this year as well. This is the site plan as Lance talked about. We've worked since the concept approval with staff on enhancing our architecture, as Lance mentioned. We've also worked with them on the 151st Street road improvements, as well as water main through upsizing through the site to benefit the overall community, as well as a lot of discussion with the Park District and refining the park site. So we think we've done a fairly decent job with those items with the staff, and are happy that we really do not have any outstanding issues with regard to the landscape plans and engineering plans. As Lance mentioned, we have some landscape buffers along the western boundary of the site, as well as 151st Street. We have berm and tree plantings that are detailed on the landscape plans. We'll have an entry monument out on 151st Street, and some buffer area, larger buffer areas along that western boundary on 151st Street. As Lance went into detail on the landscape, on the architecture, but I just want to make one other statement about the architecture. This is brand new architecture. Lennar has not built this in any community in the Chicagoland area, so we're excited to do this here. It will be unique. We consider this a very upscale townhome, and look forward to using it again, but this will be the first time we're using this. So it will be unique, and I think you'll be happy with it once you see the buildings built. These are just the square footages of the townhome units. They're all 3-bedroom, 2 baths. Actually, they're 2.5 baths, and they all have 2-car garages. These are just some interiors of townhomes at other communities that we have going on now. Many of these are actual images of the same units or similar townhome units that we've floor plans that we've built at other communities. The target market here, we touched on this at the concept. They're families, they're young professionals, they're active adult, empty nesters, they're seniors, non-traditional households. It's really designed to fit all walks of people looking to, or families looking to purchase a new home. So it's not targeted specifically to any specific type, but we think with the features, the floor plans, location, that it will attract a diverse target market. Just a statement about the inventory of homes in the area. You've all heard it. You know, there is a so-called housing shortage out there. We believe that it is somewhat acute in the Chicagoland area, and that most people that need a house are almost forced to look for a brand new house because the resale market does not have a lot of inventory. We've had continue to have steady, strong sales at all our communities. Again, with the financing and offerings that we can make through Lennar Mortgage, we're able to buy down interest rates and get folks in on a payment that they can afford. That's the strength of a large builder like Lennar. So back to Lance's recommended motion, but that's the overview. Thanks for having us again tonight, and we're here for questions on anything you might have.
Thank you, John. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak? Please come to the podium.
Mr. McDonald is here on his private capacity?
I'm here as a private citizen,
Okay.
so.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure, it's Pat McDonald, 520 Amy Court. The question I have is if you can go back to the layout here, that shows all the homes. Back one. Building number 3, is the dotted line a sidewalk that connects or is that a sewer line?
It's an easement for a sewer line.
Sorry?
Easement for the water line.
It's for a water line?
I think it's the water line, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah.
The concern I have with looking at this unit right here is there are a lot of people in Lockport that park back-to-back cars on their driveway because their garages are full. This has literally no access to back out of the garage onto the street. So the people over in Unit 3, farthest, which would be west, if anybody's parked in those slots, they have to jockey around the cars to get back to the street. And I've seen this down in other subdivisions where the driveways become massive, and if people are parked there, it becomes a real nightmare. And this is more of a concern I have, and maybe this is the first time coming before the Planning Commission, so I didn't have a chance to talk to any of you. But I think when we get into situations like this, we should take consideration of the density in that corner to make it more habitable for the people that live there. So my recommendation would be Unit 3, instead of being, I think that's what, 4 units? Or 2 units? Somehow jockey that around to make that more direct access to the street. Because there's a few other subdivisions that have this problem, and ironically, that house is the last one to sell in the subdivision because it's weird. If somebody parks on the driveway, it's like they're parked right on your front lawn. So my concern would be to the Planning Commission is when you see things like this, take that into account. The other concern I have is when they have the backyard being 10 feet. Personally, I'm not going to live there, so I'm not in the ballgame. But ideally, if you're sitting out on your patio and the people behind you are sitting on a patio, you have, hey neighbor, you're part of their party. So either have them a little more offset so the patios aren't, direct, or have some type of screening or something to make your backyard and not accommodate just densities of back-to-back. So that would be kind of my concerns for this subdivision. Okay?
I guess I would offer 2 things just as a clarification. So the 10-foot setback isn't really the backyard.
Okay.
So that just goes to the patio, and then there's 45 feet between patio to patio.
Okay, so there's a 45-foot.
Yeah, so if you look, let me go back to this. So if you see that graphic,
Space.
the orange is where the house, the building is.
Mm-hmm.
The yellow is the 10-foot backyard, and the green is what is in between the buildings. So if you look at the building that's number 28, so there would be an additional, there's 40 feet in between those 2 buildings, 45, or I forget exactly what it is.
Looks like 36 between the...
Okay, well, Pat, when this originally came before us, when Pulte was the developer, we had the same conversation, and the Planning Commission did not recommend because of some of those, there was a list of things. Your rear yard setbacks was one of them, and they changed and went to City Council, and City Council approved it after the changes. But now we're here with a different builder tonight, and that's probably going to be some of the comments from this commission,
Good.
just so you're aware of it.
Okay. That's fine. Like I said, I walk a lot through the neighborhoods, and I see stuff like that, and I scratch my head and go,
What is going on?
exactly,
Yes.
exactly. So I just wanted to make my voice to you and say, hey, these are some of the concerns that I have. And appreciate you giving me a minute. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak?
Hi.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure, Larry Cunett, 15015 South Hillside Drive. I'm lot number 30.
Where, Larry, where is that at? I'm sorry?
I'm in Creekside Estates, lot
Okay.
number 30. I've got a couple concerns. Going back to that drawing with the green on it, if you can go back there.
Wrong way.
Yeah, now, that is facing 151st, the red downward, right?
No, that is interior to the development.
Interior, okay. So my question is, you asked for the variance of the backyard at 10 feet, right? That's a 40% variance. My backyard is going to be facing a building that's only 10 feet away from me.
No,
No?
no.
Then how did I misunderstand that?
No, state your questions and we'll respond to them. It's probably 40 feet.
40 feet from my property line or 40
Yes,
feet
from your
my-
property line.
I've got a drawing that I think will help.
I'd like to see that.
Answer that.
Okay.
So here's the way that corner in particular works. So you've got 95 feet between the back building face of the building that would be facing towards you to your property line.
Okay, what is that dark line there?
So that's the property line. So the plus or minus 95 feet is to your setback.
So where does the 10 feet come in?
So because of the way that they plat townhomes, they don't plat them like a normal single-family lot. So you don't get the 60 feet behind your house. It's all common space because townhome owners don't maintain big backyards.
Right.
They maintain just around their own property. So in order to plat that correctly, they plat the properties directly around the home as opposed to long lots that individual people own. Like yours, you probably own 155 feet deep or so.
Approximately, right.
They own 40, but the overall space is still 155. It's just that there's a,
So to understand it, how close is that building going to be to my backyard then at that point?
so from the back of the house to that black line
Correct.
that you see there is a 30-foot setback, so you'd have 65 feet between the back of the house and the property line, and then you have another 60-ish or so to your back of your house.
Okay. Are any of these buildings going to be zoned as Section 8 housing?
Section E is a rental program. They're all owner-occupied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are? Okay. What percentage is that going to be?
Well, you can't really control somebody. I mean, you
I
probably
get
have
that,
rent.
But you can
Yeah, you
designate
know,
a certain
if I
percentage.
could just let the developer answer that question versus staff, because they know better who they're marketing versus what we would think. So the developer will have the opportunity to answer those questions, because this is a public hearing, and they'll come up and respond to your question.
Okay, so how will they answer my question?
Once you're done speaking, they'll respond to the questions.
Okay, all right. In regards to traffic flow from there going into Creekside Estates, you had a photo up here where you had the, so is that road going to continue into Creekside Estates?
Yes.
And where do they get access to the facility from? 151st?
Yes, there's two entrances from 151st Street.
One right by the fire station,
Okay,
and then the other directly aligned with Olympic Lane.
okay. All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public wish to speak?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Michael Bonomo, 16650 West Meadow Hill Lane, right off of, the border, the development. Questions are traffic studies. Gauger at this time, in the morning, afternoon is a nightmare. Adding 148 homes, or how many? 148 homes, 200-plus cars. I think it's just going to add to that traffic. Questions come to mind, traffic lights, if that's something that's in a future study for that intersection right there, 151st and Gauger. My feeling is Farrell Road, and if there's ever been any future discussion about punching that all the way through to 143rd to lighten up the traffic flow, which affects the Fields subdivision, obviously. Traffic size is the biggest thing. And then the other thing about access to Creekside, you have 3 access points to the subdivision. I'd ask if there's any chance of doing a roundabout entering Creekside to deter and or slow down traffic coming into our subdivision. Because again, you're gonna have 200 cars funneling into 3 exits, take maybe 50 of those cars, forced or unforced, to come through Creekside, and we have a lot of children running around. And then people coming in, but by the time Google Map gets a hold of this, they're gonna come into our subdivision like trucks did when Prologis was in play, before the maps came into play. We had trucks literally coming into our subdivision, looking for access to Prologis. So a roundabout would be a question, or something to hopefully consider. Having the berm between our subdivision and theirs creates a border, nice for, maybe rain, or water runoff or what have you. So that's nice to hear. It's a nice looking building, so it's not gonna lower our property values by any means. But again, traffic studies, traffic light, and a roundabout is, well, traffic light is the city's issue, right, to possibly pull
Well,
in there.
developer and city, but
Yeah,
Gauger
yeah.
Road's not in the city of Lockport, it's in Homer Township.
Township, which-
It's 3/4 of a mile east.
Which
We have no
we
control
have to
over
deal
that.
with, so.
Pardon me?
Which, yeah,
Well, Homer needs to address that,
Homer
not
has to address it
Lockport.
because it's their area, right?
It's still there.
But I'd like to see consideration for a roundabout and accurate traffic studies, which include school buses and, children in the area as well. Because again, we have a lot of kids in our subdivision. I couldn't tell you how many. I would say at least 30 under the age of 12 running around. So that is a big concern with the traffic. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Okay, would the developer like to respond to some of these?
Just for the record, you're still under oath. There were questions regarding, I believe, the driveway issue on Lot 3, setback questions backing into the adjacent subdivision, the 3 access on whether or not there's a roundabout possibility.
Okay, I took a couple notes. First of all, Lennar is in the business of for-sale housing. We are not in the business of renting the units that we build. So they will be for sale, for sure. Secondly, with the access to the subdivision, we have 2 access points on 151st Street, and we are also doing road improvements along 151st Street, increasing that to a 3-lane section there to provide left turn lanes into the subdivision. So really the ease of access will be from 151st Street rather than driving through Creekside. It'll be much easier to get in and out of the subdivision through the 2 access points on 151st because of the road improvements that we're going to do, and people will just take the path of least resistance, and that will be the path of least resistance. With regard to the one subdivision, one in the southwest corner of the subdivision, the driveway scenario, there is a 20-foot driveway as well as I believe a 24-foot drive aisle in addition to that in the southwest corner. Ryan Martin is here, our engineer, as well as Rich, our land planner, but we think there's ample room there to drive in, turn around, back out for those 4 townhome units in the southwest corner there. The drive is just exclusive to those 4 units, and the drive aisle there is wide enough, we believe, and Ryan or Rich can attest for that traffic to maneuver there. Was there any other comment that you'd like me to address.
What was that? I'm sorry,
The
John.
setback, the rear setback with the adjacent subdivision, I believe.
On the west side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe Lance addressed that, but the setback from the building to the property line is 65 feet.
Okay.
And in that 65 feet is a bermed landscape, is the landscape berm on the westerly approximate 30 feet of that.
If there are any questions for the developer?
We'll have some,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've got two. So, to address the comment on the rentals that I believe Larry had, does the HOA limit, like if someone purchases it, and is there like a specific amount? Because I believe that happens in my subdivision and all these others where it's only X amount of the percentage can actually be leased out versus, owner user.
Yeah. We don't currently have that in our HOA documents, but I can tell you that our other townhome communities, we have very few investors.
Sure.
Very few. And to limit that, if somebody had a job change or somebody for some reason had to rent their place, I mean, just like a single-family homeowner, if they had a lifestyle change or something, and it wasn't an opportune time for them to sell their place, but they needed the opportunity to rent it, we'd like to have that extended to our owners. But I can tell you that our other townhome communities have, we just opened one in Aurora, on Liberty Street. There's 98 of them there. We're almost finished with that. Two investor owners out of 98. So it's owner occupied. There is a huge demand for people wanting to buy and own a place that they can, afford.
Yeah.
And this is a first step or a downsized step for people, and the numbers just don't make sense to rent them out.
That's, kind of where I was going with it. I mean,
Right.
with the cost of the townhome, the
Exactly.
rent that you would have to generate would have to be multiples of the thousands.
Yeah.
So it'd be,
And
2,500,
the
$3,000.
the HOA fees, real estate taxes, it's just, there just isn't enough economies of scale for an investor to get involved with that.
Okay, and then Michael had brought up the point of a roundabout. I understand as a developer that can be kind of cost prohibitive in doing something like that, but I mean, potentially speed tables specifically because this is right next to a park, and if we're worried about kids playing and things along those lines, I don't know if there's city issues with having a speed table, speed, bumps, something along those lines near a park, and that would kind of solve multiple issues at once. Relatively cheap compared to a roundabout.
Right,
I think.
right.
Bigger challenge would be snow plowing.
True.
Yeah,
And they wouldn't be going 50 miles an hour plowing the snow either,
right.
knocking out the mailboxes.
Yeah.
Just an idea. That's just throwing it out there.
Yep.
That's all.
Okay, Janine? Bill?
151st Street has a 7 or 8 ton load limit, and the hundreds of trucks bringing in materials for this subdivision are going to be considerably heavier than that. We have to allow local access, obviously, to let those trucks in and out. But I'm assuming 151st Street, its entire length is going to be considerably damaged by all those heavy trucks. Is the city going to get reimbursed for all of that?
So as a part of the project, they are expanding 151st Street to a 3-lane cross-section, much like it is further west. So that'll be a 3-lane, full-finished cross-section once the project is
Yeah,
complete.
but if the trucks are coming east on 151st Street from Archer Avenue, that whole stretch from Archer over to Farrell is going to get damaged.
That's been made a 7-ton weight limit, Bill. 151st has.
7 ton?
7
Well,
ton.
all the
And
truck,
inadvertently, you'll get some semis go up it because their GPS is not updated, but it's very minimal.
But the hundreds of trucks bringing in materials for this subdivision are going to be considerably heavier.
Pardon me?
That comment's not true about the semi, it's not very minimal.
If I could ask
Sir?
for a point of order, we have
I
to make
will.
sure that there's
Go ahead.
accurate record.
Sir, when you're at the podium, you can speak. Until then, please contain yourself. Well, facts and figures are two different things here. There's a 7-ton weight limit on the road. It's posted. There's a flashing light. The police patrol it. They can't be there 24/7. And I understand what you're saying because I feel the same way about it. But that's what you get. It's nobody's fault. It's not the developer's fault that this goes on. It's not yours, not mine. Thank you. Go ahead, John. Oh, I thought you were.
Yeah, no, I wasn't,
Bill was on comments.
Yeah, I'm just making the assumption that all these overweight trucks are going to do considerable damage to 151st Street from Archer over to Farrell, the whole length of it. And the city pays to maintain that, or is the city going to get reimbursed for all the damage that those trucks do to that road?
you know, I don't know that that can be quantified. We are doing a significant road improvement on 151st Street along our frontage. And that can be timed toward the end of the community, and it will be repaved. So, I mean, I think along our frontage, we'll be leaving 151st Street in a pretty good condition.
Well, you're putting in deceleration lanes, acceleration lane, turn lane.
I believe it's a 3-lane cross-section. I'll let Ryan can
Okay.
details with that, but it's a 3-lane.
Okay, we'll
3-lane
cross that bridge in a minute. Mr. Likens? You good?
I had a quick question. This is either for Lance or John. And when it goes to the maximum lot coverage, you explained the calculations. What would the calculation be? Do we have that if all of the, public land was considered? What would that number drop to?
If they were individual lots?
Yeah,
aligned,
like if all that land is
It'd be less than 30%.
okay, thank you. Which would theoretically that would meet our target then, and
Correct.
then so you'd be 30% 's requirement. You're at
Right.
let's say 28, 29.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Lance, does the city have a, building to building setback requirement? Because some of these are pretty tight, 2.8 feet and very close.
When you say building, which direction?
16, 17, and 18, the corners of them are 9 feet apart.
Yeah, and then 22 and 21 is specifically the one that I thought was super tight. I didn't know if that was in the code or if that's something that we'll look into when we.
We have side yard setbacks that would be 6 feet, it's a minimum of 6 feet.
Each
So-
building. Each building, correct?
So 12 in between
These are, I believe,
structures.
and it's a question for them.
Yeah, our
believe it's
minimum,
nine
our minimum
feet.
building separation is 21 feet.
Oh. Justin.
So you're saying, John, maybe your engineer can answer this. Buildings 16, 17, 18, what is the setback side to side on those?
I'll let,
In the front, at the front?
let the land planner, Rich.
Okay, at the front of each building.
Sure. Rich Olson with Gary R. Weber Associates, 402 West Liberty Drive, Wheaton, Illinois.
Could I have you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And what you stated earlier is correct and accurate?
It is.
Thank you.
So we have a minimum setback from the right-of-way to the building of 25 feet for each building. Side to side is a minimum of 20 feet. So what you're seeing there appears to be less, but it's 20 feet minimum.
Because it just looks, the spacing of it, and Aaron has it here on,
There's a notch in the building that gives you a little bit of, kind of plays tricks with your eyes, but.
I think it's the notch in the building that makes that difference.
I'm sorry, Lance.
It's the notch in the building that makes that difference. So
Yes.
if you look at the plan C 2.5, The
Yes.
space between
Which is-
16 and 17 is 27 feet.
Yeah,
And
24
it's
and a
that
half.
notch,
looks
that's,
very narrow. Okay, and Kyle?
No, that was it. I think it was
Okay.
just maybe discrepancies.
yeah, sure.
On these patios you're proposing, they're 10 feet? By what size?
They're not actually 10 feet. There's a line drawn behind them for it, sort of the builder operating, the builder occupied or ownership, but the patios are slightly smaller than that to fit in with that footprint.
And what size would they be?
I believe they're like 7 by 10. But 10
Not even big enough for a patio table.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean, table's 6 foot by 40. So, I mean, here's where I look at it. We're in the concrete business, and we're gonna get calls to enlarge the patio. And then we're gonna go to the building department and say, well, you can't enlarge the patio because it's encroaching on the lot line. So that's gonna create a problem down the road, as Mr. McDonald pointed out. Okay. Secondly, you're showing 14 off-site parking spaces. That's it?
That is correct.
Because the driveways are not big enough, they're to hold 2 cars only,
Right, there would be 2 in the garage and then 2 out.
okay? But I think you need to increase your off-site parking with this many houses. I just don't see that working out with only 14 spaces in the subdivision, and one's at the east end and the other 2 at the west end.
Are you looking for overnight spaces, or,
Just off-site, if somebody has a party, you're gonna have the streets crammed with cars, and you've already cut the size of the streets down, and now we're gonna have accidents and everything else in these streets. I'm just saying, I think we need to require more off-site parking. These 25-foot setbacks, to me, are garbage anyhow, but that's life. On your elevations on 151st Street, the south side, I think we should add some shutters on the second-story windows, as we have on Division Street, Lance, for several houses on that. I'm trying to think of the name of that subdivision, on Division, 167th, east of the interstate.
Sagebrook?
Sagebrook, next one.
Silo Bend.
Silo Bend, yeah.
on the single-family homes?
On the single families, we've required shutters and, because they face 167th Street.
Right.
Now, these townhomes, we've dialed them up a little bit on the bottom, but nothing on the top. I mean, we're, just, you want to pull that picture up?
Yep.
Back up. There we go. See, there's not much difference in them. In the back. No, that's the.
So this is along 151st Street in Creekside. They added the shed roofs onto the back, and then they added stone below it. The architectural style doesn't call for shutters. That's why you don't see them on the front either. I mean, that wouldn't be typical of those types of products. So that's why we haven't done shutters, and you can look at the front as well.
But you got the different gables and offset gables on the front where you don't have on the back. That's just my preference. We did it out in Silo Bend, it looks nice. And actually, we missed by a couple of houses the way it curves around the subdivision. But, I mean, I think we should do something of that nature. Go ahead, John, you have a comment?
Yeah, just want to make one comment. All of the windows, front and back, they all have trim around the windows.
Okay.
So they don't, it's not like just siding coming up the windows with no trim, so.
It's a 4-inch board.
Yeah, so every, it's a 6-inch board on the top, and then 4-inch on the side and 4-inch on the bottom. So every window has that, so it.
Right.
It will, as Lance articulated, that is kind of the architectural style with the Craftsman and the farmhouse. They don't have a lot of, there's not really shutters that go with that, those two architectural styles.
Well, I think we could do more with the elevation on facing 151st Street, but, and then, Bob, our engineer, are they participating in upsizing that water main on 151st Street, or how was that worked out?
They're actually completely replacing it. So the
They are
water,
upsizing it?
no, it's going to be the same size. Yeah.
Because originally, when Pulte was here, it was going to be upsized.
It was going to be replaced.
Yeah.
me?
It was going to be replaced,
Right,
not
but larger
upsized.
main.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you.
So what they're actually doing to it is they're going to abandon the existing one in place and use the line that runs through their southernmost street to actually kind of continue that and connect it. And they'll also be tying it in at 2 other locations to improve the overall flow of the
Flow.
area. They'll tie it in up at Hillside to Creekside's water main, which is currently a dead end. And then they'll also connect it to Olympic Lane on the south side to connect it into Creekside South, I believe is what that's called.
Yes, okay.
And the old main will be gone. I mean, portions of it will be abandoned in place, but this will replace all that.
Okay. That's all I have. Sure, come on up to the podium.
Actually, I just lost my train of thought.
You're still under oath,
Oh,
and
yes, I am.
if
Yeah.
you could just restate your name.
Mike Bonomo, 16650 West Meadow Hill Lane. In relation to what Bill Maloney was talking about with the damage to the roads, and you're in construction, whatever, are you able to control the trucks accessing the project area? So where you can say, do not come from Archer, come from Gauger to 151st, then you're only looking at maybe...
Well, yes, we are, and that's worked out with the engineering department as the access, but those roads are in Homer Township.
Right.
Homer Glen.
But I'm saying in terms of direction.
Lockport has no control over those. Lockport can control Farrell Road and 151st Street, not 151st to the east.
Well, to the point that Bill was saying, though, so you know the trucks that are gonna come in, can you instruct them to come a certain way? Because coming from Archer, you're talking all of 151st being affected. If they come from Gauger, you're talking, what, maybe...
Well, there's a
50.
weight limit on Gauger Road going north of 159 to 6 ton.
Well, if they come
So
from 143rd?
That's
Okay.
that's an 8-ton limit at, right at the end of the warehouses, so they'd be violating that law also. And then coming east, it's a 6-ton from Gauger down 151st to the west.
So it stops right at
the best access would be, let the city of Lockport control it, coming from the shortest distance, which is normal, off of Archer Avenue.
Yeah.
Because typically, truck route, you have to allow egress, and it has to be the closest area.
Okay.
So that'd probably be the truck route. That's the engineer's job, not ours, but that's probably the way it'll lay out.
Okay. And one more thing too, school bus traffic.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of school...
Chairman, if I could, just for the record, we want to make sure that we keep the comments and the discussion germane to the actual application and the developer who's present, because I don't want the record to reflect that any of non-relevant, irrelevant information was used to sway one way or another. Truck traffic, bus traffic is not within the purview and the control of the developer, because they really can't control the speed. The city, can take a bigger strategic look at the area and see if we want to either reduce the speed or put more signs up. But again, we want to make sure that there is no undue influence regarding any information that may be irrelevant to
And
the
that's what I
actual
told them.
applicant.
It's up to the city engineer.
Yep.
Yeah. And one more thing, with school buses, access into the...
We have no say-so over that.
Huh?
We have no say-so over the school buses.
That's a school district role, or going to that one?
I don't know who does. That's up to Sonny. Any other questions? Come on up.
I'm still on the road. Yes. Thank you. One of the comments that the developer had stated about Section 8, that there's nothing in writing to prevent the amount of Section 8, that he's got just experiences in other towns, that he's had, specifically Aurora, that he stated. I would like to see a limit on the amount of Section 8 that is actually in that area. And I say that selfishly to protect the property value that I have that is going to be butting up right to those townhouses.
Thank you for
If
your
I could
comment.
comment
That's
that.
a legal
It is
question out of our
illegal
purview,
for,
so
and
we'll let the
again,
attorney answer
yes,
it. Go
the
ahead.
state recently passed a law that the developers or the owners of the property cannot limit or restrict or discriminate based upon income source, and that is an income source. As indicated by the developer, this development will be owner occupied, and I think there's a misconception regarding using the vouchers. They're limited to certain number of a cap, and I highly doubt that the market amount that the developer is going to put for this property and for any of the units, that it would be not financially impossible. But again, we cannot restrict and the developer, and we can't force the developer to put any such restriction. They've indicated that they're going to sell these at market price, and that's what you're going to get as a
You can cap the amount of
response.
Section 8 housing that you have there.
No,
You're
you
not-
can, sir, you
You're not
cannot,
preventing
and we.
people from purchasing
Yep.
or renting.
You-
You're just capping the amount of Section 8 housing that's
You-
there.
You can't do that. So, and unfortunately, I have the law license, and it would be advisable against the city to force the developer to do that.
Any other questions from the public?
Lance, I have one last question. This is either for you or it's probably for Lance. It looks like the streets are 31 feet wide. The previous proposal, I believe they were 25, so we're gaining there. Does that allow for street parking on one side of the street, and will that be notated during
So
development?
our normal street section is a 66-foot wide cross-section, or I shouldn't say our normal. The one that's in the code is a 66-foot wide cross-section. The vast majority of our streets have a 60-foot wide cross-section. The roadway width itself is the 31 feet that you see. The intent of the applicant was to not have that be an item that would be an issue for the commission or the city council. So they are just simply complying with what's in our code.
Okay.
And that typical would allow for parking on both sides of the street.
Okay, thank you.
Just like, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Wheeler.
Second.
Second by Likens. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to adopt staff's findings and recommend approval of a special use permit for planned development to allow 148-unit townhome development. Should I
We have
put
a
both of them
motion.
together?
Pardon me?
Yes.
And I'll include the second motion to approve
No,
the
we
fin...
gotta have it- we gotta
Want to go?
Yeah,
have
you
the
can-
first one first.
Okay.
Okay. You could do it either way, but if we want to do it separately, that's
Do it
fine.
whatever way you want.
Yep. You could make a motion to adopt the staff finding and recommendation of approval with the special use for planned development to allow a 148-unit townhouse development and to approve the final plat of subdivision and final development plan. So that would be your motion, correct?
I will add, and a motion to approve the final plat of subdivision and final development plan.
That was included.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep. That's the motion.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Do we have any discussion on either one? Matt?
I would still like to see some sort of speed control over by the park, just to help maybe flow of some sort, but I don't know how to necessarily amend that in this situation, even if it's a flashing sign that lets drivers know what's going on, something.
Sure.
So, but I just want that to be on record.
Okay. We have a motion, a second, and a comment. Any other comments? Roll call vote, please.
You got it. Wheeler.
Yes.
Garland.
Yes.
Maloney.
Yes.
Oxley.
No.
Peters.
Yes.
Likens.
Yes.
Quinn.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, anything under new business? Anything under old business? Any citizens want to be heard? I have nothing. Commissioners, any report? Nothing. Staff report?
No.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Wheeler,
Second.
second by Quinn. Any comments, questions? in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much.